Today, we're diving into a really fascinating piece of American history. It's the story of the Lelands and their incredible American journey.
Okay, let's just start with this. Picture it. It's 1933 and a man's final journey. I mean, his funeral procession stretches over 2,000 miles. That's almost clear across the entire country.
So you gotta ask, right? Why? Why on earth would that happen? Well, to figure that out, we have to go way back. In this story, it doesn't even start in America. We're heading across the Atlantic to the incredible fjords of Norway.
So let's get into it. This is the story of that man, Torger Leland, and his wife, Anna. And their lives, they tell a much bigger story, you know? It's about immigration, about family, and about what it really took to build a whole new life here in America. To really get why they made this journey, you have to understand the choice they were facing. On one hand, you've got mid-1800s Norway. I mean, just stunningly beautiful, right? But it was also a place with serious economic problems and not a lot of good farmland to go around. Then, on the other hand, you have this idea of America, this promise of fertile soil, tons of opportunities, a chance for a totally new start. And that push and pull, that's what drives this entire story. But here's the thing. Torger and Anna, they didn't show up together. Nope, they each took their own separate path from Norway, on their own journeys of hope, sailing across the Atlantic years before they'd ever even meet. It's wild. Their lives were like two trains on parallel tracks for years. Torger's born, and then just 3 years later, Anna is. Then, when they're just little kids, both of their families make this huge, life-changing decision to emigrate. And get this, they both end up in the exact same state, Wisconsin. They were living in the same part of the world for years and had absolutely no idea the other existed.
So Torger's family, they make the trip on a sailing ship called the Hebe. And you have to remember, back then, this journey was dangerous and could take months. But they did it in just 3 weeks. Unbelievably fast. You have to think that must have felt like a sign, right? A good omen for the new, maybe faster-paced life they were heading towards.
But just getting here, that wasn't the end of the journey. Not by a long shot. The next challenge was maybe even bigger, becoming American. I mean, how do you forge a whole new identity in a country that's completely new to you? Okay, so to get a really important part of this, you need to understand how names worked back in Norway. It's called a patronymic system. Basically, your last name came from your dad's first name. So if your dad's name was Sjur, your last name would be Sjursen, literally Sjur's son. But the system, where the family name changes every generation, was super confusing in America, where everybody had a permanent family name. And that brings us to a huge moment for them. Torger's family makes a decision. They drop the name Sjursen and pick a permanent one, Leland. And the name itself is cool. It came from a farm back near their home in Norway, so they're adapting to America, but still holding on to a piece of where they came from. It's perfect. A new name for a new country. And the timing of all this, it's just wow. Check out these two dates, both from 1876. In April, Torger becomes a naturalized U.S. citizen. Then, just 6 weeks later, he marries Anna. And this is all happening while America is celebrating its centennial, its 100th birthday. I mean, think about that. He's not just starting a family, he's literally weaving his new life right into the fabric of his new country. So with a new name and a new citizenship, they start to build their life together. But, for pioneers back in the 19th century, joy and heartbreak were often two sides of the same coin. They put down roots in a place called London Township, Wisconsin, and they started a family, and it was a big one. Between 1877 and 1893, Anna gave birth to 10 kids. 10 children, but only 7 of them lived to become adults. They lost 3 in infancy or early childhood. One little girl was just 3 years old. It's a stark reminder of the painful reality for so many families back then. But even with all that hardship, they built a good, solid, hardworking life. Torger was a carpenter and a farmer. Anna, she ran the house, raised the kids, managed the garden, the whole 9 yards. They weren't just getting by, They were building something real. They owned their own land and were a respected part of the community. And then, after all those years building this life together, tragedy hits again. This quote from the local paper just gets you. It says, Anna had not been noticeably sick until about 6 weeks ago. It just shows you how fast it all happened, how shocking it must have been for everyone. So in 1911, after a surgery for cancer, Anna passed away.
They'd been married for 35 years. She was only 58. And just like that, an entire chapter of the Leland family's story came to a close.
But the Leland family story, their journey, it didn't stop in Wisconsin. The westward migration continues. That same pioneering spirit just moved on to the next generation.
After Anna died, Torger, now a widower, and his grown kids, they did what so many other American families were doing at the time. They went west. They spread out, settling in Washington, Montana, California. It's like that same itch, that same impulse that brought the family across an ocean was now pulling their kids and grandkids across a continent. And this is what brings us right back to the beginning of our story. It's about a legacy coming full circle, all the way from a fjord in Norway to a final resting place, right back in the heartland of Wisconsin.
You know, when you step back, you can really see their family story as 3 epic journeys. First, there's the Atlantic crossing from Norway. Then, the westward push across America. And finally, the final homecoming. Because when Torger died in San Francisco in 1933, he was 82. His kids had his body transported all the way back, over 2,000 miles, so he could be buried right next to his beloved Anna.
Their story, it stretches from the fjords of Norway to the farmlands of Wisconsin and all the way to the frontiers of the West. It's just a uniquely American tale, isn't it? About hope, hard work, and above all, family.
And it really makes you think, doesn't it? Pretty much every family has a story of movement, of big changes, of searching for something different. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what journeys define your family's story?